roles in playing decomposing organic matter, cycling nutrients like carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, and some symbiotic relationships with plants. So next slide, please. Um, the soil has or the vegetated soil consists of four main components: the inorganic mineral matter, organic matter, air and water, microorganisms, and macroorganisms. So for inorganic mineral matter, it takes up about 40% of the soil volume. So this includes particles classified as sand, silt, and clay. So um, the soils are named that is based on their primary relative percentage of this particle, like the sand, silt, and clay, wherein they can be called as sandy clay or loam. So for the organic matter naman, on the other hand, it only comprises about 5% of the soil volume, where it primarily includes decaying plant and animal material, where it provides essential nutrient. The big player here kay ang air and water. So together, this fills roughly about 50% of the soil volume, which creates necessary spaces for gas exchanges and moisture retention that sustains microbial and plant life. And lastly, of course, the microorganisms and the macroorganisms, where they represent about 5% of the soil volume, where they are critical for biogeochemical cycle and decomposing organic material. So next slide po. So these soils are organized into horizon. So Marg na-mention naman ni siya tong sa ecology nato before na naay different horizons ato ang soil. So the first horizon or top layer, the topmost layer of the soil is the O horizon or the organic layer, wherein it is rich in organic material and with high microbial populations. And after sa O horizon, we have the A horizon or the topsoil, aside from the organic layer, extends several meters, about 50 centimeters, I'm sorry, and it's rich in organic content and support abundant plant roots and microbial life. And the B horizon, we have the subsoil. It is a mineral rich layer with iron and aluminum clays and often red or brown in color, and where deeper plant roots extend. So, and the last layer is the sea horizon, where it extends into the bedrock. So this layer has minimal organic material. So let us note that the microbial diversity generally decreases with depth, just like sa aquatic environment po. So next slide, please. Now, so the water availability in vegetated and dryland soils directly influences microbial habitats by impacting the nutrient availability. So, where the oxygen level and the transport of organisms were ma-observe through the water availability. So, well-drained soils support aerobic activity of microorganisms, while waterlogged soils promote anaerobic processes. And each distinct microbial communities and metabolic dynamics. So, next slide po. So, for arid soils, more na siya savanna, like more katong sa Africa nga environment, wherein it is medyo dryland siya, pero naagi hapoy ga proliferate na mga plants. So, it covers 35% of the Earth's landmass with low organic carbon and high temperature. So, the biological soil crust stabilizes soil and influence the ecosystem. So, may microbial communities pud ta na ma-observe diri sa arid soils, and it is often dominated by cyanobacteria. So, as we can see in the upper right photo sa letter B, we have the cyanobacteria with additional members like green algae, fungi, heterotrophic bacteria, lichens, and mosses. No? So they stabilizes soil surface, preventing erosion from wind and water, and they can also fix nitrogen, supporting desert ecosystem. So next slide, please. So for so the soil is highly diverse when it comes to the when it comes to bacteria and archaea species. So um, there are thousands of species per gram of soil, and it is influenced by factors like the soil type and geography. Some in agricultural soils, agricultural practices often reduce this microbial diversity. So mainly, we can see that the highest occupant of this pie graph is the proteobacteria, wherein they were the most adaptable group with more broad metabolic capabilities. And the next in with the highest percentage is the acidobacteria and bacteroidetes, which play roles in nutrient cycling by decomposing plant compounds and soil polysaccharides. And for the second to the last is the ay wait lang, balik ko dito. Sorry, te. Actinobacteria and Firmicutes, though they are less diverse, but they aid in organic matter decomposition. So in soil archaea, mainly Uri archaeota and Tauma archaeota are less diverse but critical, especially the ammonia oxidizing Tauma archaeotis, which is essential for soil nitrification, as what mentioned ni Dave Tumniage. So next slide, please. So dili man tanan nga soil kay murag healthy siya for naapoy polluted nga soil. So wherein these soils were contains high levels of contaminants, so like heavy metals and hydrocarbons. So this disrupts the natural balance and reduce microbial diversity. Although naa siya mga taas nga level for contaminants, naa gihapoy mga microorganisms na ga-thrive diri wherein polluted and unpolluted soils naa sila similar general taxonomic makeup, wherein they can be enriched with, or they are dominated with proteobacteria, acidobacteria, bacteroidetes, actinobacteria, and firmicutes. So, uh, ang medyo lesser lang ang representation sa polluted soils kay ang acidobacteria. So, for in unpopulated soils, on the other hand, they really support high prokaryotic diversity, and usually the soil disturbances that lead to polluted soils, they shift towards more competitive species, no. So this reduces pod in reduction in diversity, since there will be limited resources, and since there's a high level of contaminants. So next slide, please. So we have the other the other primary terrestrial environment, the subsurface environment. So, just like I have said a while ago, no, na microbial diversity generally decreases with depth, but subsurface microbes are crucial for processes such as sulfate reduction, methanogenesis, even under nutrient scarcity. So, the microbes living below the sea horizon have and few, if any, of these advantages, because limitations, microbial diversity, and abundance in the deepest terrestrial environments are typically extremely low. So, an example of this is, next slide, dito. Kay ang disulfuridis audaxi, audax viator, wherein they thrive in deep nutrient-limited environments, wherein they utilize hydrogen as an energy source, highlighting their resilience and adaptability. Meron pod tag archaea na naga-thrive pod sa subsurface environment, wherein they adapt to anoxic condition, contributing significantly to methane and hydrocarbon cycles. And they play a role in biogeochemical processes in subsurface environment. So next slide, please. So let us move on to the insects as microbial habitats. So mainly the organisms that I will show where they present a mutualistic relationship between their hosts organism. So in insects, they are common no ang mutualism wherein they contribute in nutritional advantages or protection from pathogens and predators. Bacterial symbiotes can reside within specialized insect cells, associate with specialized surface structures, or colonize the insect gut. So the next slide po. So, primary naitay dalawa ka heritable symbionts sa insects. The primary symbionts, which is crucial for reproduction, and they reside in specialized regions called bacteriomes and are typically confined to specific tissues. And the other heritable symbionts is the secondary symbionts, which they often provide benefits like enhanced production or protection from pathogens, contributing to the insect's fitness. So, like pathogens, they invade different cell types and may live extracellularly within the insect's hemolymph. So, ang hemolymph kay where ito ang fluid equivalent to blood in most invertebrates, which occupies the hemocoel. So, next slide, please. So, for parasitic symbionts, some heritable symbionts manipulate reproductive systems to skew sex ratios, promoting the spread of infection through increased female offspring. These rapid transmissions allow symbionts conferred traits to spread quickly in population, exemplified by the swift rise of rickettsia-infected whiteflies. So, for nutritional significance, kay obligate symbionts enable insects to exploit nutrient-poor diets by providing essential nutrients. For example, aphids harbor Buchnera, which synthesizes amino acids missing from their diet. So, joint metabolic pathways can also form with multiple symbionts contributing to nutrient synthesis. So, next slide, please. Ay, next slide. So, next slide pa dyan. So, for defensive symbiosis, no? So, in rove beetles, they use spadarin in cytotoxic chemicals synthesized by an endosymbiotic Pseudomonas species for defense against predators. So the chemical accumulates in its hemolymph and it is deposited in eggs, deterring predation. If crushed, the beetle can also cause skin irritation in humans. So these defensive chemicals can result from horizontal gene transfer. So next slide, please. So next slide po. So other defensive symbiosis includes the leafcutter ants. So they cultivate a specific fungus using leaf fragments in a complex symbiotic relationship with multiple microbes. So this includes parasitic fungus, nitrogen-fixing bacteria, an actinobacterium for protection, and black yeast that competes with the actinobacterium. So the fungus is passed down through colony founding queens who uses fungus pellet to establish new nests. So nitrogen-fixing bacteria enhance the leaf substrate's nutritional quality, while the Pseudonocardia secretes antimicrobial agents against Escovopsis, the parasitic fungus. So next slide po. So for the last microbial habitat, the invertebrates. So microbial symbionts of invertebrates, they perform different behavioral and nutritional functions. Some symbionts provide light source or bioluminescence that we will be discussing in the next slide, um, or consume inorganic materials to feed the animal. In some cases, the invertebrate uses the symbiont as an offensive weapon, producing toxic compounds to kill its prey. So next slide, please. So this is what I have mentioned about bioluminescence. No, so several species of bioluminescent bacteria from genera Vibrio, Alivibrio, Photobacterium, Shewonella, and Photorhabdus emit light in a process known as bioluminescence. So most of these bacteria are found in marine environments and can inhabit specialized light organs in certain fish, squids, where they produce light for signaling, predator avoidance, and prey attraction. So next slide po. So these bioluminescent bacteria can also be found saprophytically on dead fish or parasitically within crustaceans, making their presence noticeable through the light they emit. So we can observe this symbiotic relationship in the flashlight fish. Makita siya sa letter C sa upper right in the photo. So where the bright area is the light organ containing the bioluminescent bacteria. So next slide, please. So other invertebrates are the hydrothermal vent associated animals like the tube worms, giant clams, and mussels either feed directly on free living chemolithotrophs or form symbiotic relationships with them. So they receive organic compounds in exchange for providing a safe habitat. So an example of these are the tube worms, where which lack a mouth, gut, and anus, and have a trophosome filled with sulfur oxidizing bacteria that perform autotrophic processes include in Calvin cycle and reverse citric acid cycle to produce nutrients from carbon dioxide. So the red part aning tube worm or the red plume of the tube worm contains hemoglobin that transport H2S and oxygen gas to the trophosome, where the carbon dioxide is released for the bacteria. And the stable isotope analysis indicate the geothermal sulfide enters the worm from the vent. So the red plume or the red part sa tube worms are the main chemical vent where it carries the it carries it to the bacteria living inside the tube worm. So next slide, please. So other invertebrate includes nematodes, specifically entomopathogenic nematodes, wherein this family of Heterorhabditidae and Steiner nematidae are obligate pathogens targeting a wide range of insect hosts. So their lethality stems from a symbiosis with bacteria that produce insecticidal compounds. So the primary bacterial symbionts include Photorhabdus, Photorhabdus, sorry about that. So Photorhabdus, which is associated with Heterorhabditidae, and Xenorhabdus, which is associated with Steiner nematidae. So unlike insects that making defensive use of the symbiote products, katong pares atong sa beetle ganina, these nematode uses the compounds produced by its bacterial symbiont to kill the insect prey. So next slide, please. So for the last example would be the reef building corals. So the corals are colonies of polyps that build calcium carbonate skeleton. So symbiodinium resides in coral tissues within vesicles called symbiosomes, enhancing photosynthesis. So coral gametes can contain symbiodinium through vertical transmission or acquire it from the environment or horizontal transmission or horizontal gene transfer. So next slide. So there is a mutualism between these stony corals and the symbiodinium. So makita siya sa arrow, ang arrow sa upper part no nga na ay colony sa sa staghorn coral. So So just like I said, they have this mutualism relationship where the symbiodinium supplies the coral with photosynthetically fixed carbon in exchange for nitrogen, phosphorus, and carbon. So while the coral skeleton optimizes the light capture, amplifying light for symbiodinium and enhancing photosynthesis. So that ends my part for this report of the group 2. So that would be all. Thank you. Thank you po.